Hey guys, welcome back to some more AFK Arena. Today we're back over on the YouTube account and we're going to be looking at the question that everyone has been asking. Are we going to build the Awakened version of Estrilda or should we build the Awakened version of Zora? So I want to break these down and kind of show you the pros and cons of both of them and making sure that you have kind of an educated decision when we look at the heroes. Now, first of all, when it comes to the Awakened version of Estrilda, one thing to note is right off the bat, she does require a little bit of a higher investment. When we start looking at the very basic build or getting her up to Mythic, she does require a plus 40 signature item. When we look at the plus 40 signature item itself, this is where she shines. For every increment of max health any Bloodsworn pack member holds as Scarlet War gear, so when they have that shield, they will deal more damage. This is the reason why players build the Awakened version of Estrilda. 15% more damage with a cap of a 75% damage boost. That is massive. That is massive in every single game mode we have in AFK Arena, giving her the ability to have your team, if they can keep that war gear, having a 75% damage boost is again a pretty big game changer. Now on the flip side of it, when we look at Zora, she is one, doesn't require such a high build. When we start looking at the recommended build, even get her up to Mythic, it is the plus 30 signature item. Enemies affected by Stellar Mass take 40% more damage from Zora. Now remember, this is from Zora. This is where her damage really shines. That is the reason why this plus 30 signature item does make a big difference, because that is going to allow her to do the damage. If you don't have her at the plus 30, and again, this is the super basic build, this is not even the recommended, is getting her to Mythic as a priority, getting her to that plus 30 signature item, really making a big difference on how well this hero is going to perform, just based on the signature item. Then we hop over and we think of the furniture. So both for the Awakened version of Estrilda and for Zora, because there is no non-Awakened version, they require the 9 of 9 furniture, which is the minimum. Now, when it comes to the inn, when it comes to the furniture building itself, this makes a big difference when it comes to Estrilda. Each strike of damage will accompany by a certain amount of damage from the Scarlet War gear, again, allowing that Awakened version of Estrilda to do a little bit more damage. And then enemy units hit take 50% more damage from the pack members for 8 seconds. Again, 9 of 9 on that Awakened version of Estrilda is absolutely required. So furniture, staying about the same, because even when we look at Zora, when we look at the optimal build, they do require her to have the 9 of 9 furniture as well, because of course, Zora deals 40% more damage to the 2 enemies nearest to the Astral Vortex. When an enemy leaves the vicinity, Stellar Mass will be applied to them. Again, that is the massive buff that she has. So getting the 3 of 9 and the 9 of 9 furniture on both of these heroes are absolutely pivotal. So guys, comment down below. Are you team Zora? Are you team Estrilda? And we'll continue with the video, because looking at Estrilda, when we look at the engraving, interesting enough for Estrilda, does require a little bit of a higher engraving, again, to get the damage. So they are recommending building her up to a 67. Right now we have her at a 61, so actually building up a little bit more haste, but then putting on a little bit more physical pierce as well as the attack. Again, when you think of the ability to amplify the damage that these heroes are doing within formations, trying to really min-max and being best in slot within the Curse Realm, Nightmare Corridor, and the Treasure Scramble, the damage that she's doing, the physical pierce that she has, the attack she has, is going to make a really big difference on how effective this hero is going to perform. Now, of course, 67, like I said, is optimal. When we start looking at the build of Zora, this is one that only requires a 60 as she is built right now. So a little bit less investment in here, not only in the signature item, not having to take her to a 40 right off the bat, but also with the engraving, the recommended in here is an E60. So literally just getting her to the point. Now, of course, because I want to min-max, because we are very competitive within game modes, I actually built her up to a 68, which is a little bit higher than the recommended, because she also does have insight with some crowd control in there, but she has crit and magic pierce, which both are going to amplify the damage she has. And then, of course, like we talked about with the Awakened version of Estrilda, building up the attack in this hero. Now, when it comes to a majority of heroes within AFK Arena, absolutely require the attack. Again, when you think of the primary damage dealer, so thinking of the Awakened version of Athalia, thinking of Envy, thinking of Liberta, any of the heroes like Scion that are absolutely driven by the damage they produce in formations, when you look and you want to go through the Nightmare Corridor and essentially achieve more damage, it is going to require a higher attack rating. that is going to amplify the damage they're going to do. When you start looking at the Nightmare Corridor, most of the targets in there, or most of the comps that we have, are running 1 damage dealer or possibly 2 damage dealers. 1 damage dealer, it is going to be important to increase the attack to be competitive within the game modes. Then we think of the whale builds. So when we get to the whale builds, it is the monster builds, is the biggest builds that they really recommend with these heroes. And when we look at this, they are looking at a plus 40 signature item for Estrilda. They are looking at a 27 when it comes to furniture, which is kind of crazy. So when we start looking at the sub that we have from strengthening furniture and building up the furniture even further past the 9 of 9, again, when you start thinking of the ability to do damage, when you look at the bonuses, and I think Lilith has really noticed this, is requiring heroes and requiring a majority of heroes to have and be really optimized past the 9 of 9 furniture, adding a lot more stats in here. Even right here, we do have the +1 furniture built up, which increased the crit rating that she does possess, allowing, again, the crit is going to increase, or the crit rating, more time that the awakened version of Estrilda is critting and hitting that critical rating, it is doubling the damage, and then the crit amplification on top of that allows her to really do the top damage. And again, thinking of that 27 furniture in here allows you to build out 2 additional pieces within the furniture. But then again, on the flip side, thinking of Zora, little bit less of an investment. They are only looking at an 18 furniture. So even looking here at the build and the optimization, you can see I have her built up well past the whale build. Left her in there, just did some summons for the furniture. Kind of forgot about it a little bit. She sat in there for a while. As you can see, since then, I've dropped her out because the small furniture, not really the recommended, because remember, we do have the large furniture, the small furniture, the hanging furniture. When we start looking at these again, it is based in the crit rating. If you want this hero to do more damage, you can increase the attack, you can increase the crit rating, you can increase the crit damage amplification. Even here, the attack rating is increased by 2.2%. That it just adds an incredible amount of damage when you start stacking it. When you add in, your additional 5 points into the engraving, increasing the attack. When I add all of the furniture for the inn, increasing the attack goes up just exponentially when you start building this out. Even here, crit rating 95.1, guys. We're almost sitting at 100 crit rating, which is kind of crazy. Looking at here determines how often they land a critical strike. Right now it is 95.1. Critical strikes deal double damage by default, which can be increased based on the crit damage amplification, which is the reason why in a lot of game modes, damage goes through the roof, because not only can you add in the crit, you can also do the crit damage amplification. So right here, we have a 30% crit damage amplification. So where she's critting almost all the time, then you add in the amplification factor, allows her to do way more damage than she originally did. Now, of course, out of these 2 guys, my favorite and the one that I would go with, and I am team awakened version of Estrilda, just for the simple fact, looking at tier lists, looking at a couple other places, she does score just a little bit higher than Zora. But again, remember, when it comes to the build itself, they are both 4th generation, because we know Zora was released much earlier this year, but Zora was released, and correct me if I'm wrong, I thought it was Zora was released, and then we seen Envy that was released, and now we got the awakened version of Estrilda, meaning that the utility, the effectiveness of both of these heroes being newer heroes to AFK Arena, being the 4th generation awakened heroes, really does make a big difference. Now, again, for me personally, I do like the awakened version of Estrilda. Now, one thing to note, kind of as a side note, the awakened version of Estrilda is still very new, meaning we haven't seen her run through all the different iterations of the Cursed Realm, the Nightmare Corridor, and the Treasure Scramble. We're going to have to see exactly where the effectiveness remains. But almost looking at her right now, where she's running and kind of the run rate, it seems like she might go into that SSS tier based on the ability to amplify the damage that players or what heroes are putting out within formations. And as we continue to get more and higher damage dealers, you can amplify that damage up to that 75%. So guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Let me know in the comments what team you are on. Are you on Team Estrilda? Are you on Team Zora? But again, let me know in the comments what you guys think. And as always, thank you guys for watching.